Good evening, back again from Apit Family for another session in our webinar series, Meeting an Expert. Indeed, it's another amazing evening that we are looking forward to have, because we have another splendid character to share her vision, her purpose, and her journey with us, along with her career perspectives that she went through and along with her experiences. I'm sure it will be an amazing session for all of us, simply because of the diversity of the personality and, of course, the diversity of the job role and the career perspectives as well. So, having that said, I would like to invite Dr. Rohantha to, without further ado, to give the needed attention to the speaker of the day today. And we would expect our chairman to join on the discussion towards the latter part of the day as well. So, with that, Dr. Rohantha, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaushali. It's actually an honor to have such a personality in our midst today. I personally know Shiromal. What a wonderful professional. I mean, that. It's fantastic for Sri Lanka to have this kind of caliber. Let me just share a few thoughts from Shiromal. Um, she's the chairman and managing director of Jetwing Travels, one of the leading inbound, outbound travel management companies in Sri Lanka. She is also the chairman of the Jetwing Hotels Private Limited, a premier hospitality brand that owns and manages 30 hotels and 10 villas in Sri Lanka. Inspired by her entrepreneur father, Shiromal joined the family business to help the world experience the best of Sri Lankan authentic hospitality while enriching the lives of local communities. Although she was an heir to a legacy of her father, Herbert Cooray, the founder and the late chairman of Jetwing, Shiromal chose to start with J. Walter Thompson's JWT as an accountant. She quickly rose to become the finance director and went on to take up a similar post in JWT Hong Kong. Later, she returned home and took over the reins of the Jetwing family business from her father, together with her brother, and Shiromal steered the company to success it enjoys today. Jetting Hotels achievement include the Gold and Silver Trophy commendation in the hotel category of the Presidential Environment Awards 2019, the Hotel Investment Conference Asia Pacific Award for Sustainable Operations, which was in 2016. Shiromal holds an MBA from the University of Colombo and is an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants UK. She is newly elected chairperson of the Sri Lanka Institute of Directors, a director of Capital Alliance and Ceylon Tea Brokers, and an independent executive director at Commercial Bank and Alliance Insurance. Recently, Shiromal Cooray was picked by Ernst & Young Entrepreneur Winning Women Asia Pacific Class of 2021. She's an amazing human being, a lovely person to work with. She was also chairing Women in Management Awards sponsored by World Bank this year, and some outstanding individuals were selected, which actually Shiromal, is searches people and then identifies them. So I think it's really an honor to have you in today's program, and I think it's really great that our MBA graduates can actually understand what it is to um, um, make it in the world of corporate. So, Shiromal, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Rohantha. I want everyone. I think he wasted 5 minutes of your time telling about me, which was highly unnecessary, I thought. Anyway, I met Rohantha first at a spin class. Rohantha was cycling away, and while I was trying desperately to keep up. So the topic I've been given is to talk about tourism recovery in 2021, But before that, let me just tell you a little bit about tourism. Before the pandemic hit us last year, tourism was one of the fastest growing industries in the world. I think it was the 5th largest industry, and it was growing almost 5% year on year until, of course, what happened last year. It was also contributing about 10% of the world's GDP. And they say that 1 in 10 people working actually worked in some industry related to tourism. So that just shows the importance of the industry. And for many economies like the Maldives or some of those little islands, it was their real main source of revenue. So you can imagine the impact it has had, the pandemic has had on the industry and all the people who were dependent on it. So if I were to say that maybe even if you take Sri Lanka, it was contributing about 5% of our GDP, and we were earning almost $4 billion in revenue, and about 1 million people were working directly and indirectly in tourism. So there were also so many other people who were benefiting by it. So it impacted quite a bit at a micro level as well. So tourism, in that sense, is an industry that has a global reach, and it has lots of other benefits for a country, like investments and many other things. Everybody knew that it was vulnerable. People knew whether it was smoke in Iceland or the bird flu, the pandemic like this, or or a war. So it had a lot of. It was volatile. It was vulnerable to many things. But in spite of it, people went and invested in tourism, invested their livelihoods, because I think it's an industry that you take a liking to, or you have a passion for it. If you like to serve somebody, or if you like to provide a service, it's a fabulous industry to be in. So if you look at Sri Lanka from until 2009. So in Sri Lanka, tourism as a organized industry started, I think, in the 1960s, about 1965. It started, the Ceylon Tourist Board was established, and there were lots of legislation passed. So then it became like an organized industry. And there were people who came, in the past, people came by ship, and then the aeroplane started. So the charter people were then coming by charter. So from being a rich man's privilege, travel became anyone's prerogative. It became so cheap that anybody could really take a holiday. And some people took maybe 2 to 3 holidays a year, because it became, there is what we call short haul tours, we have long haul. So if you take the Europeans, they would take a summer break to a short haul country somewhere in Europe. And then in the winter, they would come to the long haul, which is Asia for them. So, it went off like that. And then our company, my father actually was the entrepreneur. So he began into tourism in the 1970s, early 1970s. He was a building contractor. So he was building hotels for other people. And his first hotel that he built was in Nigammo. And while he was building it, one of the tour operators, a Scandinavian tour operator, told him, "Why don't you build a hotel? We need hotels and we will fill it up." So that's how he got into travel and tourism. And then he also built the Triton Hotel then in Ahongalla for Kingspan. So that is his background. He didn't come into tourism by choice. It happened by accident, and it was the same for me. So he started with one hotel, and then, of course, over time, organically, he grew. He thoroughly enjoyed it. And then he also started the travel company, and then, so that vertical grew. Tourism, if I'm to tell you, I think I always tell our team, it is like, I always feel it's like being a doctor or a teacher, where you can actually have a impact on somebody. You can touch a person's life by providing them the service, because it's, for instance, I was I recently took a trip to Hantana, and our company was doing the Indiana Jones Trail. And when I saw that mountain, I thought, no way am I going to climb that. But because of the enthusiasm of the tour leader, and he was helping me, and he was, telling me, you can do it, and giving me a hand, I actually did it. And I can't now, when I think back, I can't believe I climbed that mountain. So, and I realized that it can also give a person confidence. So there are lots of ways in which travel and tourism can impact a person. So it's a fabulous industry for somebody to be in. Yes, right now it's in a very precarious situation. A lot of people are having problems because, as you know, the pandemic really, there's zero revenue. There were about 6 months from March last year till about August last year, when there was absolutely nothing happening. So zero revenue, but the costs were there. Because Sri Lanka also doesn't have a proper welfare system to help people who are out of a job. Most companies felt it their responsibility to retain the staff, because for the travel company that I represent, the staff are our main asset. We don't have brick and mortar. So it's a staff, and the staff or the asset that we have built over the years, are we going to just let go? We can't do that, because that's who drove our revenue and who can drive our revenue. And same with the hotels also, although the hotels, the product has to be looked after. You can't just close up a hotel and go. So there were lots of implications. So what most people did was they reduced the as much as possible, the contract staff and all of that, but most kept the permanent staff, but reduced the salaries of some of the high-paying executives or the senior managers, and somehow contained. So there were companies who had taken loans, who obviously couldn't pay them off, but the government came in and gave a moratorium, and now they've been extending it every 6 months. They've recently extended it again. So somehow they're managing, because tourism has had 30 years from 1983 till about 2009. It was up and down. We had the JBP insurrection, we had the tsunami, we had the war that was going on, bombs going all over the place. So we had kind of learned to cope with crisis, and we have managed to get over it, somehow survive. We were a resilient industry. And then, of course, everything was fine from 2009. Sri Lanka was on a roll. And then came the Easter attack, the bomb attack in 2019. And we were just getting over it when the pandemic hit. So right now, if you were to ask me, we are at a very low situation. But yes, I still believe in the industry and I still love it. I am passionate about it. I think that kind of gives you a little bit about the tourism industry right now. And if you were to ask me, or if I were to answer the question that Rohanta asked, whether I see a recovery in 2021, to be honest, we thought there would be a recovery by end of last year. But then we had to keep postponing that date. So the worst case scenario then became the best case scenario, and we realized we just couldn't plan anymore, because the dates kept getting postponed. Even right now, though we thought, okay, UK, for example, UK is a big market for Sri Lanka, and it also brings in a lot of high yield traffic. And we thought maybe from May, they will open the country. But, yesterday or day before, they came up with a new guideline saying they cannot travel out, and they are going to be fined £5,000. So, every day there seems to be something happening. And then they're talking about a fourth wave. So it's quite a difficult thing to plan. But I think the vaccine is kind of the hope that I can see at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully, if everybody is vaccinated and it kind of looks after the different variants that people are talking of, I hope that things would improve. And yes, we are hopeful that by the end of the year, things will come to about at least 30% or 40% of what it was in one of the best years before the bomb attack. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we're hoping for, Rohan, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Shiromal. Uh, Thank you for that great overview. So let me, I think, first of all, congratulate you on the accolade given by EY. Um, what does this award actually mean to you?
Yeah, so I mean, I used to work at EY. That was my first job. I was an audit trainee at EY straight after school. So it has a special place for me as well. And I was quite honored when I was selected. It's a group of women in this Asia Pacific region who have developed their own companies and come up to a certain position in the industry. So we are going to be trained as well. We are going to be given training on how we could take our companies to a different level, to the next level. So there's going to be exposure within this community, and we are going to be given different, training. So I'm looking at it in a very excited way. I'm quite excited about it because there's going to be a lot of exposure, and of course it's in the Asian region. So as you know, most of the Asian people, whether it's male or female, they're very competitive and they're very focused. So it's going to be something interesting, and I think I hope I'm going to I feel I'm going to benefit a lot from this, Rohan.
So even though there is a pandemic, would the program would have its own limitations, or how does it work?
Yeah, so they will do online training, and they're hoping that maybe towards the end of the year we could all meet. But for example, last year also they had the program, but they had all done it virtual. So I think it's possible, and then we can meet subsequently. Yeah, I think it should be all right.
So does it give market connectivity, or does it skill training?
It does both. It does skill training, and it also does market connectivity. Yes.
Okay. So, Shiromal, you were the chairperson of the WIM World Bank Awards this year. Any key pickups from this year's awards?
Yeah, so I was quite amazed to see so many people applying and being eligible to be selected. And there were also different categories compared to what it was earlier. So that shows that women are making inroads into very diverse sectors in the economy. And it also shows that the males are enabling these females to integrate and assimilate and work as equals. So yeah, I was quite amazed. And also the young people, the age group is getting younger and younger, which means that more and more young people are clearing all these boundaries and getting into it, which is great. So yeah, it was quite a encouraging thing to see the winners and even the applicants that took part this year.
What do you think were the other key challenges that people are faced when it has to select outstanding women in companies? Well, what do you think are the issues that are there?
So one thing is, there are certain corporates or companies that are geared for this. For example, if you take like the Standard Chartered Bank, they are one company that have very set procedures, and it's a global company. So that has already created the environment. So I think in a company like that, it is easier for a woman to rise up because the systems and everything is in place. But then there are other male-dominated companies. I have heard that there was a company that didn't even have a toilet for the female board member. So that's the kind of, so in an environment like that, it is difficult for that female to rise up. So in that sense, when you're comparing, maybe you're not comparing like with like, because the other company, the second company I spoke of, they would have had to really push hard and go through a lot of difficulties to stake their claim. whereas the other company had an enabling environment for them to, shine and help. So, that becomes difficult because it becomes a little subjective, because we also sometimes don't know the inherent difficulties in some companies or the issues somebody had to face to get to that position. So I would think in that sense, maybe we are a little, we don't compare like with like. But Sulochana, who is in charge of the program, she really makes an effort to find out all these intricate details. She would even get females from out of Colombo who have lots of other challenges to face. So I think over the years, she has kind of created a good platform and an information pipeline, I would say, that helps the judges. And so the judges she also selects the judges from different, I would say, disciplines. Like you, for instance, you have a good kind of information, or your tentacles are there all around. So you will be able to also give a lot of insights. So like that, the people are there and they all communicate very well. So that helps to overcome the negative things, that can be there.
One thing I have noticed, Shiromal, in this judging, I've been, I think, on that panel for the last, 8 or 9 years, is that, whenever there is a successful project, when you really dig deep, you suddenly find that there is a lady in the middle of it.
Right.
So the task of the judges were to find them and bring them out.
Right.
Now,
True.
My question is, why is that? Is it a cultural issue, or is it that they don't like to come out? But they're very happy when they get the award. They come and they thank you, and sometimes it's so embarrassing because you say, listen, we didn't do anything, you guys are doing it, but it's just that we identified.
Yeah. So I think women, maybe like in my generation, I hope it's not there in the younger generation. So most of the time, women are kind of submissive. Even most of our religions, whether it's Christianity or Buddhism, you're always told you're like kind of second fiddle to the man. Like even the Bible says, wives be submissive to your husbands. So that's the kind of environment that a girl is brought up in. Like when I was in school, I was told girls should be seen and not heard. So you know what I mean. So we as you say, we are not trained to push ourselves and put our hand up and say, yes, I can do that. We'll be there like little mice in a little corner until somebody sees us and says, hey, come and do this. So that is something we have to really help each other and maybe get the younger people to, go out there and stake your claim, put your hand up when something is there. So I agree. So that it is not I think only in Sri Lanka. I think all over the world, it is so. Women don't push themselves enough. Because I know, for example, I have a friend in the US who runs about 6 very successful Montessori schools because they're quite popular there. But she and the husband doesn't get involved. Maybe he just does the supplies and things. But she tells everybody it's my husband's business. So because she says, if I don't do that, I can't keep my marriage. So there are issues like that as well, because just you have to balance everything. So if a woman pushes herself too much, then she can have other implications, the in-laws, the husband. And so I think it all depends. There are some women who are pushy, and then of course they get labeled and they are told, oh my God, look at her, she's this. So that is the kind of background that we have come from. And I'm quite happy to see it changing, I think the younger generation now, they're not shy. They're not ashamed to go forward and, stake their claim, which is great. So I think it's changing, Rohanta. I agree with you. But yeah, so which is why this is an excellent opportunity where she is recognizing and rewarding such people. That gives you a lot of confidence, that somebody has actually finally, because if you notice, even at home, we don't really appreciate what a woman does, whether it's your mother or your wife. It's taken for granted. You go home, a meal is there for you, you know. So people don't. So now, when somebody has really taken the trouble to, look, find you and reward you, it's a big deal. So, which is why this program that WIM and IFC is doing is, I think, an excellent thing for women. It really boosts their morale and gives them a confidence and encourages them to do even more.
In the recent last 2-3 weeks, we got a huge share of voice on this whole concept of gender equality.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking is now, for instance, we know that the tourism sector is challenged. And let's assume that you have to recruit a person for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have people who come for an interview. So now you know that there is this whole concept of gender equality. You like to give the gender balance, that all that is there. But now it's like tipping point. You have to select a person for the skill set that somebody brings to the table.
Yeah.
So how do you balance between these two things, Shiromal?
So I think you have to select that. Yeah. I think you have to select the person that is suitable for the job, period, because I don't think you should compromise that. But if there are two people, a male and a female, and they're both equal, and then you need to have parity in your workforce, then I think it's natural it will go to the female. But if in that situation the male is better suited, then I think we should always select the male, because I don't think, in my opinion, right, that women should be given a preference in that sense. I think it's a responsibility of the HR or whoever is selecting to select the best person for the job. It doesn't matter whether it's a male or a female, but if both are equal, then I guess yes, perhaps it's time for a female to get the preference.
So, Shiromal, what did you study at Kalam University?
So I did an MBA. I did business administration, a master's in business administration, and I also specialized in marketing. I actually lectured my next batch, because people like Amal Cabral and all, I was lecturing a little bit of marketing until, I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, you need to then come and do a lecture for our MBA students. Now tell me, what made you select an advertising agency?
Yeah.
Because you're a finance person, and finance person normally you'll, especially lady, you will say, I must work in a bank, I must work in an insurance company. You know what I'm saying? Very stable, kind of thing. While ad agencies, JWT is one of the best ad agencies in the world.
Yeah.
So what made you go to that kind of a route?
So it's a long story. If you don't mind my saying, I'll try and make it as brief as possible. So growing up, my dad was a great fan of Fidel Castro, right? My father was also a rebel in his youth. So he quite liked the idea how Cuba had the free medical. Because he used to always say, if you're poor and if you're sick, you really had it. So he knew he couldn't change Sri Lanka. So he was telling me from the time I remember that I should become a doctor, and he was going to give me, those days they had these dispensaries, what we call the dispensary, that he was going to do me a dispensary in a place where we had in Ragama, and I was to give free medication. So I thought that was fine. Okay, I'm going to be the doctor. And until I came to my advanced level, when you have to dissect rats and frogs, I just couldn't handle it. I just could not. So I told him, I'm sorry, I have to disappoint you. So we overnight virtually, I had to decide what I was going to do for my advanced level. Because here was I for 16, 17 years going to do medicine, and suddenly to decide. So the only thing I could do was accounts. So my dad said, okay, then maybe you should do commerce subjects. And I had to change schools as well, because St. Bridget's, where I was, I didn't have commerce at that time. So within a week, I changed schools, and I went to Holy Family, and I did accountancy, economics, and commerce, those subjects. So that is how I became an accountant by default. And I like the subjects. I enjoyed economics. I quite like the subjects also. And then, yes, so then I went to England and I worked as a management trainee there in a milk factory called Unigate at that time. Then when I came back, in those days, people used to want to find out whose son or daughter you are before they gave you a job. So I applied to a couple of vacancies that were there. And then they somehow tried to figure out, oh, you're so-and-so's daughter. And say, puta, go and work with your father. Why are you working here? So it was very difficult for me at that time because somehow we didn't have the opportunities that are there now. It was a small corporate world and everybody knew each other. So nobody took me seriously. So then when I was really upset at home, my dad said, okay, why don't you go and work in one of the hotels in Negombo? So I went there and I was managing the hotel. That was worse. So here were these people who were used to seeing me as a little child, now suddenly grown up and coming to manage them. Again, they were not taking me seriously at all. I say something and they do it. They wait till my father comes and they tell him, oh, this long story. So I was quite unhappy. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to study further. So then I joined the MBA program at the Kalam University. And then one of my friends, so I was doing that full time. And one of my friends said, there's this company, the Indian company. Then there was Indian CEO. He said, you go there. I mean, he didn't know who the hell I was. He couldn't care less whose daughter I was. He just looked at me. He had a chat with me. He said, yeah, come. So that's how I got into advertising. Everything happened in my life by default. Nothing was planned. All I knew was I was always going to I was going to work. I always wanted a career. I didn't, as I said, I was going to be a doctor. And so I knew I had to work. From the day I left school, I've worked every single day of my life until now. So I worked in advertising and I loved it. The people were different. They were all creative people. Then I realized I wasn't really meant to be an accountant, although I enjoyed that environment. And I felt I can do more than this. I can do more than just being an accountant. And I was thinking, why can't I run this company? I just had that feeling. But unfortunately, the CEOs changed and there were other CEOs, local CEOs who came in. And finally, I was sacked. I became a whistleblower. I had to, because I was also reporting to the finance director in Hong Kong, JWT Hong Kong. So I had to bring out some of the things that were not proper in my mind. They were not right. So I informed him, and so the local CEO basically fired me. So that's that again. And then I couldn't be bothered. I was quite upset then. So then I realized if you're a whistleblower, you have to, when a company needs to have proper systems in place to accommodate such people. So then again, I was at home, and then again, my dad said, there's this little travel company that is there in Negombo again. Why don't you go and run it? There were 5 people in the company when I joined. And so that's how I came back to travel and tourism. So again, as I said, wasn't pre-planned, but I loved tourism as well, because I think it's a people business and you get to travel. I love traveling. I love meeting people. So that's how I got into it. I like it.
Now, I mean, since you have a finance background and you know that we don't see, I mean, we are seeing the end of the light at the end of the tunnel on this industry, but, we don't exactly know how far it is.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever thought it's time that the group should diversify or maybe repurpose the people? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I agree. I get it. Yes. So fortunately, over the years, we had also invested in other industries, though we are not actively involved in the management. So those investments have really paid off and have, the last year, we actually survived because of that. We made sufficient profits from those industries that could sustain our employees and, keep the thing going. And so we are happy that those investments are good ones and they will hold us in good stead over the years. But yes, I agree with you. So we are looking at different areas where our core strengths can be used, and that is a little unrelated. But the fact is that our strength is in the hospitality that we are giving, that we can provide. So yes, we are looking at, to answer your question simply, yes, Rohanta. But we have, as I said, also invested outside, which is holding us on held us on last year.
So do you feel that it's kind of a disadvantage to have an iconic brother?
Not really. Well, I don't look at it as an advantage or a disadvantage. I think, again, to go back to the question you asked, a woman is somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's wife, and then someone's mother, right? So I have had all those roles, and now I'm actually my son's mother. She's the mother of so and so. So I think women are used to that, and women are okay handling that. I honestly, until you asked me that question, I didn't really think about it like that. I because I don't look at it like that. To him, he's my little brother. I mean, we grew up together, and I'm very happy about the achievements he has made, and I know he's happy about the achievements I have made in my life. We are very different people. Our outlook to things are very different. I mean, he's, as I say, tell people, he's a ideal child any parent would dream to have, right? Whereas I'm the nightmare. I think I'm a parent's worst nightmare. So, that's the kind of two different people we are. So I think we have a lot of strengths and weaknesses that we manage to, help each other. And so I haven't thought of it like that, but it has never been a disadvantage, if at all an advantage. So no, I mean, I learn from him every day. I mean, he's a very religious, a very calm person, whereas I'm the more impulsive, I would say something straight, direct, and maybe I hurt people as a result, but Iran will, he's a diplomat. So I learned from him. I always say, I'm not going to say this. I have to be really careful, but I can't, Rohanta. Something happens and there it goes, and I think, boom, why did I do it? But I do it,
So tomorrow, Shiromal,
Yeah.
tomorrow morning, what do? You go to Jetwing Travels? Or, I mean,
Actually, tomorrow,
you know what I'm
tomorrow
saying?
is
what I'm just asking is, what happens to the travel business? Like, I mean, we don't have a lot of the MBA students. Sometimes they might be not having any exposure on the tourism industry.
Yeah.
So what happens to a travel agency right now, Shiromal?
So right now, fortunately, things are much better because we are getting a lot of inquiries, I must say. But it may not be for now, but from about July onwards, we are hopeful that they will materialize. I mean, they're getting confirmed, but we are also giving them the opportunity to cancel. So earlier we would say 14 days or 21 days before you cannot cancel. But we are now giving them that option to do so because we know things are not certain. So as a result, people are booking, which is why I said I'm quite confident we might have 30 to 40% of what we had if everything goes as planned. Because there is a huge pent-up demand, and people are, even from the UK, people are making bookings. So our people do have work right now. But of course, there are some markets like Australia, Korea, Singapore, Japan, which are closed. So there is nothing happening because those people are not allowed to travel. But the countries, now even India, sadly, they were talking about a bubble, but the bubble didn't happen. So, but India would have been a fabulous market. So those people won't have. So what we've done is, Rohanta, we've used that time to do research, to develop different products. Then we also started an academy, a Jetwing academy, to train people in hospitality and related activities. So we've done a little bit of stuff like that, and we're also doing tours for Sri Lanka. Like, we also have an outbound company where we do holidays for Sri Lankans going overseas. So there's a lot of Sri Lankans who want to travel as well. The Sri Lankans also used to do about 2 trips a year overseas. So now they have no place to go. And they are also used to somebody organizing a trip for them because, there are ladies, single ladies and a little older, elderly people. So we are doing trip tours for them. We get a guide just as much as we organize a tour for a foreign group. We organize tours for local groups. So there is certain amount of work that we are doing. As I said, we do adventure tours. I mean, I told you I was on one over the weekend, which is amazing. There were about 8 of us who went. Antana, about 8 of us who went. It was an incredible experience. I would never have done it on my own. So people do have work. So we work until 2 weeks ago, we worked 3 days a week. But from the 15th of March, we are working every day, but we work shorter. We work from 10 till 4. But from 1st of April, we are going to work a full day because we see work is coming up now and things seem to be on track. But we also know it can turn the other way.
So what you're saying is people can go overseas? I mean, are there people taking... No, they can't go, right?
People can't go. But people who went overseas, we are doing tours for them locally.
Okay.
Like, so now, for example, there was a group who went to, say, England last year or in 2019, and then they were looking forward to go somewhere this year. So they can't go. So then we organize a trip for them here locally.
Okay.
So, things are happening like that. I mean, we are not the only one. Other companies are doing that too.
I can see the chairman of APIT, Bandula Egodage. Bandula, you like to say something?
Yeah, it's basically a little non-traditional, welcoming speech in between. So that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
All known people don't like these things. Shiromal, anyway, thank you very much for being with us. I'm talking to you not from Nestle side today, but basically as the chairman of APIT on behalf of our CEO, Roshan Egodage, and board of directors, student population, and also the staff very warmly welcome you here. And I know that you are busy, but only thing you have dedicated some time for our students. The whole objective is basically to give the direct contact for our students to get the opinion leaders like you to understand their day-to-day things and to grab many things that they can grab from you. And it's really amazing the way that you are addressing things. Also, not that I'm flattering, because we are in a same corporate world that we have all our youngsters to groom, and so APIT is basically what we said us with the new, along with Dr. Rohanta, and we tell our students that your academic excellence is ensured, but end of the day, when you are coming out as the completed degree holder, you need to have some extracurricular activities because you need to build leadership within. So we need to contribute to the society as the right people, which society is looking for. It is not only the academic qualification. So that is why we want to give that leadership experience, sharing with you. During our school time, we never had this opportunity. Talking to the person like you, we never had. We were just looking, expecting, how can I talk to, those days, head of Dasa Budalali, those are our, you can remember at that time, right? So we decided, this is the brainchild of Dr. Rohanta, to give the best of the people in Sri Lanka, many ways, to have that opportunity for our students. So therefore, Shiromal, it's a great opportunity to have you here. I think I'm requesting all our students to get maximum out of you using this opportunity to do their skills and everything. Thank you very much for your grace in this occasion. But I'm not going to go into details of what. But final thing is basically our intention is to give something to the society through APIT students.
Sure.
So that's great for you. Thank you, Shiromal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking me. Thank you.
Thank you. So please, Anta, it's up to you to continue.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had a unexpected meeting continued. Shiromal, I'm apologizing.
No problem.
For beginning at the beginning. So
right.
sorry
Thank
about
you.
it. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
See, Shiromal,
Yeah.
thank you, Chairman. Shiromal, going back to our discussion, I mean, actually, you're actually a unique person. I'm sorry, I actually no, like I mean, when I'm just going back to my time when I was chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism, and the whole issues that we had when it comes to these global campaigns. You know, I really did not know that you have advertising background. No, I'm actually, so I'm going to ask this question from you.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you have seen how campaigns are run. You know, you brief, you know, you have the proposals that come in, then you would test the campaigns, and then you would launch the campaigns, and you see how the traction happens in terms of the media buying, the creatives. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I mean, you have seen it so much. You know,
Yeah.
now unfortunately, this particular vehicle is not available for Sri Lanka tourism.
Yeah.
Now, but we see so many other countries using this vehicle so much, and they're getting traction by positioning their brand so finely, which gets them the top dollar tourists coming into their country.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I don't blame personalities for this, but I would say it's more to do with the system by which the our procurement process works, which is why ultimately successive chairmans have come, and ultimately you get into this loggerhead. But actually, if you do the root cause, it's not them; it's the system. The system
Absolutely.
doesn't get you to pick the best creative, because you have to go and pick the creative which is at the lowest price.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so then you have this issue. You know, so. Have you ever thought of trying to address this issue, Shiromal? Because I mean, nobody else in the tourism industry can say this, because they have never run a campaign. I mean, for example, I ran a campaign in 2010, I think, 2010 and 2005, 6. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
ran global campaigns. At that time, I
Yes.
was in that committee and all that. But technically speaking, tourism people don't have that kind of experience unless you're in a large company. Now you have seen it, so you're the only one who can actually, you have the network and you have the credibility to put this key thing right. And if this is done for the next 100 years, Sri Lanka tourism will be on the right track.
Yeah.
Now,
But I don't think it's just an individual thing, but as you rightly said, it's a system. Although the promotion bureau is supposedly a public-private partnership, we have to still follow the government procurement processes.
Yeah.
So, and you know how hard it is to get a brief out. So getting a brief, giving it to the agencies, calling out, opening tenders, as you said, the creative process, all of that you have to follow the process, and it takes so long, and from brief to actual selection takes about 9 months, right? And so by that time, the tourism is a dynamic thing. You might have a brief in January, but by the time it happens in December, things would have changed. So if you are to change the brief, then you have to put another 9 months. Yeah. So, that the whole process is just not suitable for tourism. So this has been told, I think, to successive governments. But unfortunately, the process is such, or the machinery, government machinery is such, it just does not allow. So the system, the secretaries, the ministries, the treasury is involved, the tourism ministry is involved, and some other ministries involved. So this whole entrance system just does not, there are clauses, and those clauses are so tightly entrenched, it's very difficult. I know, as you said, you and successive chairmen have also tried to sort it out. Different groups of people, the Saito, Tassel, all of them have tried, but it's just not possible. So right now, the global campaign is in the cards. Again, the current chairman is going through that whole process. for procurement, and we are told the whole system will take about September, October to get an ad agency. So, and then maybe next year we might have to get another ad agency. But as you rightly say, if you have a theme, you need to have somebody to continue that. No? Otherwise, next year you get another ad agency, they will want to change the logo, they'll want to change the whole thing. So it just doesn't work like that. Whereas if you take, say, the Maldives, they have Sunny Side of Maldives, and they build it around that. So unfortunately, you rightly said, we just don't seem to get it right. So, and I don't know, I honestly don't know. Fortunately for us, because the younger people traveled, and because of the digitalization of the marketing now, they themselves marketed Sri Lanka, or the travelers posted videos online. They got a lot of visitors, and as a result, we became the #1 destination for Lonely Planet. Not because of anything tourism did, the marketing did. It was the visitors who came, who promoted it digitally, and got the numbers going. So that is the only hope for me. That is really the only hope, because it's such a beautiful country. Anybody who coming, especially now we are attracting the millennials, which the younger people with whom we didn't before, and we were desperately trying to get them. And miraculously, without any marketing effort, sheer the beauty of the country and a few people who came and who put all those, the train rides and all those beautiful pictures, we are getting them now. So this millennials, I think within the next 10 years, they will peak their earnings. They may be mid-level now, and within the next 10, 15 years, they'll become CEOs and owners of businesses. So I'm hoping personally that will, bring in the lot of things. Okay, we can't wait for 10 years for them to do it. We also have to do our own marketing. And hopefully this global campaign is on track. And at least by September, if it happens, then we'll be positioned to get in the new wave of people coming post-COVID. So, but to answer your question, I don't see any, unless somebody in the government takes a really bold step and says tourism is a different industry, you need to react fast, because if something happens tomorrow, we need to react quickly. And to, for example, if a bomb went in Egypt, they were so quick, within a week or two, they had a campaign going where, they would get people from CNN, from all the news channels to come. They spin a different side to the story. We can't do that, unfortunately, because of all the procedures we have, but we need it. If we are in tourism, it's such a dynamic industry, it has to be done. So hopefully, people are trying to talk about this to the government officials, but unfortunately right now is not the time, because we have other issues to talk to them about, the moratoriums and getting assistance for the staff and all of that. But in the long run, I hope that, as you rightly say, people will realize that they need to have a different set of procurement procedures. And I'm not saying we should be transparent, we should follow guidelines, but it should be a different set of guidelines for tourism. Because they're in the global market, they're not only in Sri Lanka. So we are competing with all those destinations.
So you're 21 years old, and you're trying to give advice to that 21-year-old Shiromal.
Yeah.
What is your advice to that Chiroman?
Yeah, so I will tell myself, don't ever think that because you're a woman, you won't be able to do something. You don't think, okay, a man will be better at this job. You can do it. So just go for it, however hard it is. And put your hand up when an opportunity is there. Don't be shy. Don't push yourself back. Just go forward, and also be a little diplomatic. Don't always ruffle feathers. You have to, sometimes you can't change the world. So you need to take it easy and have a, try. You can get what you want in a slightly different way. So yeah, that's what I'll tell myself. Not to be in a rush. Just take it easy.
Thank you very much, Romal. Lovely chatting with you. And it's really, I mean, it was such a frank discussion. We've discussed key issues the industry has, the absolute challenge that companies have in the industry, and of course, the future, the way that you see it unfolding. And of course, most importantly, we saw how the DNA of Shiromal Cooray was in terms of going the own way, and then, getting that exposure at a global level, and then coming and saying, okay, I think I'm ready to earn the right to lead my company, which is what you did.
Well,
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's essentially how I would connect the dots, Shiromal. And that's what happens in India also. I mean, when I worked in
Right.
India for Diversity Lever, once I found a boy sleeping in a lorry in the north of India.
Wow.
And when I asked, I felt so bad. I told the guy, you can come and stay in my hotel. And he said, no, I have to sleep here. And the next thing I realized that his father owns one of the biggest companies in India.
Wow.
So that was part of his training.
Training, right.
He was put to this multinational company to get the relevant exposure, so that then he has earned the right to lead the father's company.
Right.
So which is what you did. You got that exposure. You went to Hong Kong. Learned all that kinds of experience, and then of course, you're giving now. Basically, your leadership is so important in current context because you have a finance background. Lovely chatting. Kaushali, over to you. And thank you so much, Shiromal.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Kaushali?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Shiromal, for that amazing, thoughtful sharing that you actually explained. More than the job roles and more than any other thing, the personality, how certain things can be twisted around. And, that's the absolute lovely message that it's all right for things to go wrong, and then acceptance. So I think that's one of the messages that most of us as young generation and as young students would actually look forward to, because there is a bit of a tendency for us to feel that things can't go wrong and things have to be exactly the way that I plan to do. So if someone has been having that thought, I believe this message itself would be amazing input for anyone to pick that up. And on a side note, ma'am, we do have another question. I'm not so sure whether how this can be addressed, but by all means, with the relevant regulations. There is a student who is currently in the field, and she observes, according to her observation, there's a little bit of a occupancy rate going down in some of the hotels that are in the line. So her question is, what can actually be done, or what are your plans that you're looking into the growth of, especially in terms of hotel occupancy, to expand this? What are the current mechanisms that you're looking at in relevance to the hotel chain that you're in right now, right? In specification.
So right now we are catering mainly to the Sri Lankan market, the domestic market. And I must say, because since the September, that last lockdown, things have really improved, and definitely over the weekends we are having 50-60% occupancy, because we also have a certain number of rooms only we can let out. So we are fairly full on weekends. So the challenge is during the week. Not just us, our chain, but even other hotels are having that problem. So unfortunately, the domestic market is driven by price. So everybody is giving a lot of discounts. So there's like a, not a price war, but people are reducing, people are giving a lot of value additions. So it's a great time for Sri Lankans or expats living here to travel and experience the world, which is what I do. I mean, I've been to some of these amazing places because it's fantastic time. Having said that, we also have different levels of hotels. We have what are called the level 1 hotels, where we can get tourists coming in, but no Sri Lankans. Then we have quarantine hotels, where Sri Lankans who are coming in can stay. Then there are also some hotels which are care centers, that is for COVID patients. So at different times, different occupancies do come. But yeah, so what we are doing is giving packages and value additions to get more people to come in. And some people, sometimes we also arrange tours along with transport. So to make it easier for people who don't have their own transport to go from A to B. Yeah, so those are the kind of things that are being done. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, I believe that addresses her concern and her desire that needs to be addressed. So thank you very much. It was lovely chatting with you, and it was such a pleasant evening, of course, with a lot of input. For someone who thinks, I have my father's company and I have my mother's company, I can join. If it is the case, so you can question, and I'm sure this will give you a lot of perspective to put into. So with that, we come to the end of another webinar session. And thank you so much for joining on behalf of Rapid Family, while thanking you, everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will meet back again in another week's time. And Ms. Shiromal, hope we can meet back in our premises with our students very soon.
Sure.
For us to share further thoughts and definitely to adapt to your experience. So lovely chatting with you.
You too. Thank you.
To everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, Shiromal. Thank you very much.
Bye, Rhonda. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.